Hello and welcome to Unfold. I am Jawad Tehami. In today's program, there are three major developments which are up for discussion. The first relates to the United States of America's criticism of Israel's parliament vote to annex the occupied West Bank. In the second segment of today's show, we are going to take up for discussion Pakistan and Afghanistan are engaged in the second round of peace talks in Istanbul. And the third segment, that is going to relate to Pakistan's national flag carrier, Pakistan International Airlines resuming flights to the UK and after 5 years gap. Now, starting with the first one, we have seen a vote happening in Israel's parliament regarding the annexation of the occupied West Bank. And there were two bills which were moved and they were passed in the Israel's parliament. One that relates to the annexation, and also the second bill that relates to application of Israel's sovereignty to all the illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. Now, both of these bills have passed their preliminary readings. At the same time, we have seen Israeli media saying that almost all the lawmakers from Netanyahu's Likud party boycotted the votes, with only one member of the Knesset voting in support. At the same time, his party, the Likud party, has dismissed this particular voting as another provocation on the part of the Israeli opposition to strain the relation of Israeli government with the United States of America. And of course, we have seen the kind of criticism that has come forth by the US officials. Let's specifically talk about what President Donald Trump has said, that Israel will not annex the West Bank. We have also seen Vice President Jerry Vance calling Israel's parliament vote as a very stupid political stunt. And he has also said that it is weird, and he has personally taken some insult from it. We've also seen similar sort of criticism by the other high-ranking officials from the US. The question at this particular point in time arises whether Israel would be able to annex the West Bank, despite the US strong opposition to this particular move of Israel's parliament. Let me quickly bring in, we are honored to be joined through the video link by Mr. Haitham Nasser. He is senior journalist. Mr. Nasser, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also through the video link, we are honored to be joined by Mr. G.R. BALUCH. He's former ambassador. Mr. BALUCH, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Mr. BALUCH, let me begin the discussion with you. How do you look at this particular vote and its timing, especially when we saw there was so much of investment made by US President and also his administration as far as reaching that ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian resistance group Hamas, owing to which that Palestinian prisoners and also Israeli hostages exchange took place. How do you look at the timing of this particular move of the bills in the Israeli parliament?
See, we have to look at this decision of this regime, which is sitting on a self-made disaster. So Netanyahu is, after launching this mutually destructive war of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, now sees himself at the end of his political career. Now, what he is to do, what he is trying to do, that all this war was not in vain. So he wants to prove to his constituency that, no, look, I lost so much of prestige as a state, that he made himself criminal in the eyes of the International Criminal Court, that he committed human crimes, not only human rights violation, human crimes, which will ever be remembered in the history as one of the blackest chapters of genocide and use of starvation as a weapon of war after the Second World War. Now he wants to prove to himself, to his constituency, and to the world that, no, look, my war was not. I think we have to make a little distinction for the audience and for ourselves. So this legislation pertains to the settlements, actually. So in a way, he's legalizing those 200 plus 150 to be exact settlements in which 700,000 settlers they live. So actually, physically they have the occupation. It's not a new occupation that he's visualizing. What I understood from the wording from a distance, but that is my understanding that he wants to legalize that very
legal occupation already. They do have the illegal occupation already. But what about this particular move? If they have the illegal occupation already, so what's the point of having these bills move through the parliament? And at the same time, you already mentioned of how Netanyahu's political career has come to an end after the kind of war he had waged against the people in Gaza. Now, specifically talking about the passage of these two bills, Israeli media says, and also at the same time, we've seen Israel, the governing party, they have opposed this particular move, and they have also dismissed it, saying that it is on the part of the opposition a try or effort to strain Israel's government's relations with the United States of America. So firstly, when there is illegal occupation already there regarding the occupied West Bank, what's the motive of these bills? And secondly, there was opposition by Netanyahu himself, also by his party. Why would the opposition make such a move when Israel has recently agreed to a ceasefire with Palestinian resistance group, which was, of course, mediated by the United States of America?
So, yeah. So basically, the first cause I gave you that this is part of that, maybe on the face of it, you see, it's a very complex now political order in Israel. The two parties, the parties which are supporting Netanyahu have been at kind of on different sides of their divide. Now the opposition there, so it's a very big, like, complex configuration of the Palestinians. So they could be what you're saying, that it could be a trap by because the bill was tabled by the opposition, interestingly. So it could be that this is designed to create that wedge between US and the Israeli government at this point, and to embarrass both the US as well as Netanyahu. So they want to create this wedge, but definitely in the course of this politicking, I think US has told Netanyahu that this is not acceptable.
Mr. BALUCH, I'll come to that exact point. What has the US reaction regarding this particular passage of bills in the Israel's parliament has been? What the top officials, right from the president, the vice president, have come up with statements regarding this particular move by Israel's parliament. Mr. Haitham Nasser, what's your understanding? Do you think it's a specific design on the part of Israel's opposition to create that kind of mistrust or a wedge between current Israel's government and the US administration under President Donald Trump, especially given at a time when there was a recent ceasefire between Palestinian resistance group Hamas and Israeli government reached through the mediation efforts of the United States of America?
First of all, we need to differentiate between the public opinion in Israel towards Palestinian rights and the public opinion in Israel towards what Trump wants. The public opinion since the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon shifted from opposing the war to supporting the war, supporting killing Palestinians, supporting war on Iran, supporting war against even some areas in Syria. And 70%, according to statistics of different surveys done in Israel in the last 1 year, was in favor of killing more and more Palestinians, in favor of annexation of West Bank and kicking the Palestinians out of the entire Palestine, either they are in West Bank or in Gaza. So there is not much difference of opinion inside the Israeli political circles about their vision of taking back all the promises which were given by Shimon Peres and Ishaq Rabin during Oslo Accord. Netanyahu himself said many times that he's out of this commitment, and the other opposition leaders have said the same. Israel is not left and right, it's extreme right and right. So there is no left, there is no even middle parties. But this specific situation can be described by two things. First, the opposition and other parties want to build their own credibility in front of their supporters. On the other hand, Netanyahu himself and his government are not opposing totally these kind of movements, but they are using it in a slow movement to buy time, because as we know, Netanyahu is waiting for some kind of forgiveness. Either it comes from the Knesset or by the president of Israel, which Mr. Trump have requested him to give during his speech in the Knesset, for the corruption and misuse of power that Netanyahu is accused of. If that is given to Netanyahu, maybe Netanyahu will go for the early election. He is in a popular situation now, and he might win again. But if not, then he will try to delay the election by sometimes accommodating such bills, which did not reach to a level of law, but it's still in discussion, and sometimes opposing something like this. When we talk about such laws about West Bank or bills about West Bank, we are taking the attention away from what's happening in Gaza, which is exactly what Netanyahu wants. Netanyahu wants to complete his plan in Gaza and claim victory before he goes to the next election, which might save his political career, even if he doesn't win next election. But he wants to be qualified for that election, which means his name will be cleared, just like what happened to Mr. Trump before election, ironically. So we are
Just given
talking
us a glimpse of what could the possible intentions of both the Israeli parliament and its prime minister at this particular point in time could be. When we specifically talk about the passage of these two bills, we see a drastic difference as far as the first bill that specifically talks about legally annexing the Mali domain, if I am pronouncing it correctly, the settlement by 32-9. When we specifically talk about the second bill, that is the application of Israeli sovereignty to all the illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank, that was passed with the difference of only one vote, 25-24. Why such a difference as far as both the bills are concerned? Also, what are the next stages for these bills to become law? Do you think it could be resisted by Benjamin Netanyahu, given that strong criticism and opposition by the US administration?
I need to clarify also that the current opposition by the American administration is not real opposition. It's fake opposition, given the fact that this annexation has been happening for years. And neither this administration nor the previous administration have objected this on the ground, just like they objected at many other steps by the Israeli government. So they don't really object to this. But on the surface, this is more of bargaining game between different powers in the in the Israeli political circles, because whoever is with or against different bills in this period of time, he is choosing allies for the next election. He's not really choosing a choice of Israel of getting these lands or not getting these lands, because even if this bill is passed by this Knesset lost credibility because of the war. So the next election will bring a new Knesset, which might vote totally against this. This is even internal Israeli approval will not exceed 3 to 4 months of this bill. On the other hand, if it gets any objection from Americans or international law, it depends on to which extent there will be stability in Israel after the next election. Everybody is talking about what Netanyahu is doing now, but the next government in Israel will be much weaker than Netanyahu, because they will lose the status of war. The status of war is the currency. Netanyahu is winning American support, unlimited American support, because he is still using the terminology of we are at risk and America has to save us, which America has committed to do so. When this government ends, all of these bills will come to a different kind of accountability, internally and externally. So at that time, American administration might take different procedures. Even the lobbying inside America will change. Netanyahu is only trying to buy time just to extend his time in power. As soon as the election campaign will start, you will hear different statements about these bills and about other topics. But this bill does not change anything on the ground. It's just political terminology, this party and this party, but doesn't really express their real.
A quicker answer regarding this. Do we understand there is a highly likely chance or a greater possibility of both of these bills in the coming days to turn into a law? And if it does happen, what is going to be the impact when it comes to the status of the occupied West Bank?
On the ground, nothing will change. It will be the same status as now because they have already implemented the impact of occupying the West Bank even before passing the law. But the law is like a decoration of trying to withdraw from the commitments to Oslo. Previously, what Netanyahu and the Israeli government used to say, that we might talk to Palestinians, but we don't find a partner to talk to. Palestinians are divided, Ramallah and Gaza. Now, what these bills, if they turn to law, are saying, there is no Palestinian partner in peace. We are not going to negotiate about anything, and the Palestinians have to be accommodated by other Arab countries, and we will not accept such things related to Oslo occurred, which will lead to more and more negotiation. But if you noticed, during these 2 years before, Netanyahu and his government were very smart in changing what's on the table for negotiation. From negotiating, going back to status of peace before the war, now they are negotiating, hardly giving the Palestinians food inside Gaza. In West Bank, they are trying to do the same. Don't negotiate giving a two-state solution to Palestinians. Negotiate the existence of Palestinians on this land. So this is more of a bargaining and negotiation technique.
Back to you, Mr. Nasser, I'll come back to you. Let me bring in once again Mr. Jia Baloch into the discussion. Mr. Baloch, before heading into that particular aspect that you were already touching upon as to what could be the intention of the Israeli opposition in order to create that particular wedge or restraint between Israeli government and the US administration at present. Also, when we specifically talk about these bills, do you understand they do stand any sort of a chance to turn into law? And if that does happen, what sort of an impact is going to leave on the ground for the Palestinian people in the occupied West Bank?
Mr. Jawad, legality, talking of legality in Israel, my God, it's just talking like something different. Because what is that law, international law, which Israel as a state has not violated right from its birth till today? I think most important aspect which we must share with our audience and among ourselves is that these settlements, since do not have any legal status in the constitution of Israel, therefore it is difficult for the Israeli government to funnel the funds for one, moving the settlers into the settlements, construction and living and subsistence. So what happens is that it's a very painful what I'm saying, and I think the OIC Arab world and those who sympathize with the Palestinian issue have to actually go to the core of this. That is, there are about 30 organizations in the US and maybe more in the Europe, which are registered as non-profit under the 501c. They collect funds in billions of dollars from sympathizers and other people in the US, especially in the US, and they send it, and they are meant to fund these illegal settlements. So I think the response that should come from Palestinians, the response that should come from the humanity, civilized world, the Muslim world, is to ban those 30 501c organizations. Somebody should go to the court of law in the United States and in Europe, where they are funneling these illegal money to fund these illegal settlements. That is the core issue of this. Otherwise it is just academic, as our friend was saying, whether bill is passed or not passed, whether it is not. The core issue is that the funding to these illegal settlements have to be closed. That gap has to be completely closed forever, taking all the legal measures that can be taken. And I think there is a venue that can be done, because they are violating the 501c provisions of the US, at least that I know of, the US law. So that should be immediately undertaken by the Palestinian organizations, by organizations which sympathize with the Palestinian cause and are against.
What's your understanding? Let's take your analysis regarding as to this particular opposition by the U.S. administration, with President Trump saying that Israel will not annex the West Bank. Also, he had earlier said that he had instructed the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he would not be allowed to annex the occupied West Bank. More specifically, in this whole scenario, the most interesting statement has come from Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, he has called this particular parliament's vote, quote unquote, a very stupid political stunt. What does that actually indicate at this particular point in time, given the fact the US administration has put in so much efforts, and the world has seen that he has invested a huge capital as far as efforts are concerned in reaching that particular ceasefire, getting that Palestinian prisoner and Israeli hostages exchange happening, reaching to that particular ceasefire. How are you looking at the tone of this particular statement when he calls it a very stupid political stunt?
Yeah, I think he has described the move by the Knesset perfectly, that it is a stunt indeed, as we were discussing, politically speaking, but it has implications. It has implications in the way of public opinion. It has implications for continue to control the narrative Israel wants to promote within Israel and among the supporters of Israel, as I said earlier. So it is meant to control that narrative, control that continuation of occupation, legalization of I mean, they can always come around and say, tomorrow there's a negotiation. They say, sorry, these settlements are not occupation. They have been already legalized by our parliament. So possible that this could be a bargaining chip, that because in any future negotiations, definitely the Palestinians and the parties would like these settlements to go. And that has been actually discussed earlier by us also in various forums, that what will happen to these settlements. So I think in order not to evict those settlements, because it will be a politically very costly for any government, Israeli government, to unsettle these settlers, which have also support from outside.
Short of time, I'll have to take a quicker view from Mr. Hatem Nasser. Mr. Hatem Nasser, do we understand that this particular move could also be construed as some sort of a move on the part of Israelis overall in order to prevent a future independent and a sovereign Palestinian state?
Of course, if you trace the timing, it came a few days after the recognition of Palestinian state by different forces, with different states internationally. So it's a statement by the Israeli Knesset, different powers in the Israeli Knesset, against that intention by international powers to recognize the Palestinian state. I have to mention too that even Oslo Accord have given the Israelis more than what the decision of the United Nations have given them in 1948. So Palestinians have already given up so many of their lands just to get their independence and build their independent state in the Oslo Accord in 1993. But still, Israelis are not happy with that, and they are trying to annex more and more of the Palestinian lands to convert West Bank to another edition of Gaza and convert the situation to unbearable by Palestinians to force them to leave. So this is an ongoing plan since 1948. It did not stop, but the world look at it from time to time when there is a huge loss of lives, just like what we have seen in Gaza.
Writer Mr. Hatem Nasser, senior journalist, joining us through the video link. Thank you very much for taking time out for Unfold tonight. Really appreciate that. Also, we were joined through the video link by Mr. G.R. Baloch, former ambassador. Mr. Baloch, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on Unfold tonight. We really appreciate that. That brings us to the end of first segment. In the second segment, we are going to take up a discussion as Pakistan and Afghanistan, the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, which are Afghan Taliban, they are engaged in the second round of peace negotiations in Istanbul after the first round that was held in Doha, Qatar. Will be taking the analysis regarding it as to what could be expected, what could be transpiring out of these high-stake talks. After a short break, for that, stay tuned. Welcome back to Unfold. In this particular segment, we are going to talk about, as we speak, the Afghan de facto authorities, the Afghan Taliban and Pakistan are engaged in the second round of peace talks after the first round that happened in Doha on October the 18th and 19th. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Pakistan says taking part in the talks with the same sincerity of purpose and intent. During the Doha talks, the basic focus was to stop the terrorist attacks from Afghan soil into Pakistan. And in order to do that, we should have a verifiable empirical mechanism to ascertain that Afghan Taliban regime in Kabul is taking concrete actions to stop such attacks. In effect, the Doha talks and the outcome were fruitful. I would like to trend to continue in Istanbul and post-Istanbul. We have also seen a kind of optimism that has been expressed by Defense Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Khaja Mohammad Asif, saying that he believes Afghanistan wants peace, but at the same time, he has also warned, saying that failure to reach an agreement during talks in Istanbul would mean open war. Now, Pakistan is eyeing a concrete mechanism when it comes to addressing this particular issue of cross-border terrorism from Afghanistan. We have seen multiple reports from the United Nations also alluding to this particular fact. There has been an acquiescence on the part of Afghan Taliban and the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the Fitna al-Khawarij, which has been a primary concern for Pakistan, which has been perpetrating terrorism here in Pakistan, especially since the Kabul takeover by the Afghan Taliban back in 2021. What this particular verifiable mechanism of monitoring the activities along the border areas between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and also as far as the fulfillment of the commitment on the part of the Afghan Taliban as per the Doha Accord could be. To understand all that, we are on to being joined through the video link by Brigadier retired GHAZANFAR Ali Shah. He's a defense analyst, and Dr. RIZWAN Nasir. He's a foreign policy expert. Brigadier retired GHAZANFAR Ali Shah, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. RIZWAN Nasir, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Brigadier Shah, what are your expectations from these talks which are happening in Istanbul? What sort of agendas or the goals the Pakistani side is eyeing? What could possibly transpire out of it? Brigadier Shah, can you hear me, please? I think there seems to be a little bit of disconnection with Brigadier Shah. We'll try to reconnect with him. Mr. Nasir, can you hear me, please? Dr. RIZWAN Nasir, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay, Dr. RIZWAN, what are your expectations at this particular point in time, given the fact the first round of talks between Pakistan and the de facto authorities in Afghanistan were fruitful, and that has also been expressed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Pakistan? What are your expectations? How are you looking at these particular talks? What could be the possible outcome out of it?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. First of all, you said what are the expectations from this very round of talks. I would like to draw your attention towards this very thing, that what choice the Taliban regime has at this moment. First of all, if you know that Pakistan repeatedly said that TTP is creating trouble in Pakistan, they are doing acts of terrorism. And Pakistan repeatedly said they need to curb that activity, and that is taking place from the Afghanistan soil. Yeah. And now you see when Pakistan took an action against those terrorist groups and Taliban's try to retaliate, they do not have any option. Their trade is closed, they are isolated. Now, first we had the first round of talks. In the first round of talks, yes, we could sense something. The Taliban are very much willing to give some assurances as well. There was a ceasefire now the second time. I would like to draw your attention towards the mechanism now they are going to discuss. The mechanism so far, which is under the discussion, is that if there is a credible source of information, any TTP safe havens are found, Pakistan would be sharing with the authorities, de facto authorities, and by bringing in the notice of Qatar and Turkey, both are going to be the partner in this. But now this is up to the integrity of Afghanistan government, the Taliban. And then what would they do if they take an action? That is up to them. My point is that here the talks are going on. There should be some more concrete mechanism. Pakistan's, the border was repeatedly violated. The people try to enter into Pakistan.
Here, Dr. Rizwan Saeed, if you allow me to hold you for a second over here, when you specifically talk about that concrete mechanism, once Pakistan is going to share that irrefutable evidence about the whereabouts of any terrorist elements which are taking safe haven on Afghanistan soil and they are perpetrating terrorism against Pakistan, that very information when it's going to be shared with the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, it is up to them whether they are going to take any sort of an action or not. It was up to them since they have taken over Kabul back in 2021. Pakistan has been giving them irrefutable evidence. Now, what are going to be the guarantees once such information is shared with the Afghan Taliban? Is there going to be any sort of a guarantee? Do we understand Turkey and Qatar, which have been mediating and facilitating these talks, so into which there was a ceasefire, which was reached after the high-handedness of the Afghan Taliban? Do you think these mediating countries are going to work as guarantors also in that sort of a case?
For me, I cannot say very openly guarantors, but definitely there is a moral pressure on Taliban because, Qatar is a country which offered them political office in 2011 when there was nothing at all. Taliban had no space. Later on, they opened negotiation with the United States to, formalize the withdrawal as well. The Doha Accord is the evidence of that. Now, including Qatar and Turkey, I think so it is going to bring immense pressure on the Taliban that if any irrefutable evidence is shared simultaneously with Qatar, with Turkey, and the Taliban regime, I think so there should be an action. And if they don't do this, you can see Taliban cannot afford it. How can they afford it? This is a landlocked country, and Pakistan always, provided transit through Pakistan. And multiple times you can see when they came in 1996, how many countries, offered them de facto recognition. Pakistan was one of them. And I think so, the recent things, what is happening, there are multiple factors, I think so. And I would like to highlight one thing. When Amir Khan Muttaqi was in New Delhi for a tour of 5 days, what he discussed there, New Delhi is pushing Afghanistan that they will provide them all support against Pakistan. Now, the many things did not come on.
I'll once again hold you over here for this particular point to be discussed a little in detail later on during our conversation. When we specifically talk about, you already mentioned of Doha Agreement. Now, there was an understanding, there were certain obligations on the part of the Afghan Taliban where they had to fulfill those obligations, but they did not do that. And that particular Doha Accord, of course, that was mediated, a political office for them was opened in Doha, Qatar, and that particular Doha Accord was reached. The facilitation was done by the Pakistani authorities at that particular point in time, the peace and reconciliation efforts. Now, they did not abide by the provisions of that particular Doha Accord. Even they reach any sort of an agreement with the Pakistani authorities, with the mediation of Qatar and Turkey, what is going to be the guarantee in that particular sort of a situation that they are going to abide by that particular agreement?
Ironically, the Taliban are thinking the Doha Accord is different from what is now being discussed with Pakistan. They think that in Doha Accord, the United States was a party. And in that, the assurances were offered to United States that the Afghan soil will not be used against America and American allies. And later on, now the current Taliban leadership and Taliban's the office holders, they are thinking that was a different thing because it was negotiated with the America. Now the current round of talks, the first one between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which was recently at the Qatar, now is Turkey. One thing is very important. Pakistan need to include guarantors because the guarantors, once again, I repeatedly say they are going to put pressure on Afghanistan because if anything like any violation happens again, then I think so those countries
Point.
will also.
I'll come back to you. Dr. Rizwan is here. I see your pardon for the interjection over here. Let me bring in Brigadier Retired GHAZANFAR Shah, defense analyst, into the discussion also. Brigadier Shah, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. What are your, firstly, expectations from these talks which are happening in Istanbul? And also, Dr. Rizwan is of the view that Pakistan actually wants guarantors at the same time as well. Given the track record of the Afghan Taliban, they've been unable to fulfill the international commitments, no matter they had reached an agreement with the international powers as well, more specifically when we talk about the United States of America. So what is going to be the guarantee at this particular point in time, no matter whatever they reach with Pakistan in black and white, in any sort of form of an agreement, what is going to be the guarantee that they are going to abide by the provisions? And in case they don't abide by those provisions, what sort of pressure could be built upon them, given the fact Turkey and Qatar are playing a pivotal role this time around?
You see, you have to analyze the background which Pakistan had with Afghanistan after this de facto occupational Munafiqeen government took over in Afghanistan. The track record indicates that they don't abide by any moral or legal obligation. They commit a thing and then they shed away from that. And you have seen what happened in Doha. And you have talked of the track record. So their track record is very dirty. You can compare their track record with the time when Russia invaded Pakistan, Afghanistan, and after that, 40 lakh refugees coming to Pakistan, Pakistan fighting shoulder with shoulder with Afghans in Russia. And after that, not only stopping there, when Americans again came to the Afghanistan, Pakistan had boots on ground. Pakistan was still standing with the Taliban, and the Taliban took over. There's a sigh of relief in Pakistan. So Pakistan track record have been out of way. It as far as the morality concerned, legality is concerned, religious wise is concerned, brotherhood is concerned. But their track record had been one of the cheapest, one of the malicious, one of the dodgers, one of the liars, one of the munafiqeens. This is their track record. And this is not their track record with Pakistan. They have always stabbed anybody who had been kind to them, who had been favored of them. They always stabbed them in the back, whether it was a foreign power, whether it was their own kings and.
How crucial, Brigadier Shah, how crucial in that sort of a scenario is any sort of third-party oversight? And do we understand that Pakistan actually expects third-party oversight when it comes to making the Afghan Taliban not follow their track record of deceit and deception and backing away from whatever the commitments they make? How crucial this particular third-party oversight is going to be in the future days, and who could actually fulfill that particular role?
That is what the million-dollar question is. What is going to be the third-party oversight? Because if you read the last Doha agreement, in that Doha agreement, there was a clause, other than that their soil will not be used against Pakistan. Other than that, there was another clause that the Americans will come to help Pakistan if the terrorist activities do not stop Pakistan. There's going to be intervention by them. Now, intervention might mean by way of talk and by way of the pressurization, but that didn't happen because Americans have their own priorities now. Since Doha, they had a talk in Doha. We had a ceasefire in Doha. That was a good start. Now, unless there's a third-party commitment, there's a third-party guarantee, there's a third party assurances, and that assurances has to initiate from Turkey. Those assurances have to initiate from Qatar, and they have to oversee whatever commitments are made. This time, it's Pakistan has one point agenda. That is very important. We have lost 60,000 lives of civilians, 5,000 lives of security persons. So Pakistan cannot afford to budge from their initial demand that there will be no terrorist activities in Pakistan from the Afghan soil, and all those 33 groups which are not only threat to Pakistan, they are threat to region. If ETIM is training there, it means they are going to operate in China. So China is also required to play its card. Otherwise, there will be upheaval in China also through ETM and all that. Those ISIS and Al-Qaeda, if they are operating there, they are going to Central Asian Republic states after that. So at this point of time, when those negotiations are going on, Pakistan demand remains same, that there should be no terrorist activity from Pakistan. And linked with that, there are two more things which are of crucial importance. And that those things are, if still there are terrorist activities in Pakistan, and you know the hub of those terrorist activities is inside Afghanistan. They had opened 7 new training camps for training those terrorists in Kabul, in Nuristan, in Zabul. So what is going to be the course of action after that? Is Pakistan going to take the airstrikes to hit those targets or not?
This exact point, Brigadier Shah, I see your partner for the injection over here. Of course, this remains to be the prime concern of Pakistani authorities, that the Afghan Taliban need to take a concrete action as far as the terrorist outfits operating from the Afghanistan soil are concerned. I'll come back to you for your understanding what could be the possible future courses of action if compliance doesn't come from the Afghan authorities. Dr. RIZWAN NASEER, you are already of the view that needs to be a pressure on the part of the Afghan Taliban as far as the role of Qatar and Turkey is concerned. In what sort of forms or manifestations we could expect that pressure be coming on the Afghan Taliban if they don't comply with whatever they agree after this particular course of negotiations between the two sides? What sort of pressures those could be from Turkey and Qatar?
Let's draw a scenario here. For example, they give assurances their soil will not be used against Pakistan by TTP, and suppose it happens again. And if it happens again, Pakistan takes another action against the TTP safe havens from Pakistan. And what would they do? Would they be approaching the same interlocutors, Qatar and Turkey? I don't think so. They will be willing to assist them. That will be obvious that Taliban are not serious peacemakers. Taliban are the people who are trying to spread terrorism. So I don't think so Qatar and Turkey will again be helping them. So I think so the assurances are going to help, because this is very obvious. The TTP safe havens are in Afghanistan, and with the help and the active support of the Afghanistan regime, the things are happening in Pakistan. And Pakistan enjoys...
You really think in that sort of a scenario, Dr. RIZWAN NASEER, in that sort of a scenario, if that pressure comes from Qatar and Turkey, the Afghan Taliban are in fact going to feel the heat, given the fact that you already mentioned the kind of 5-day tour Amir Khan Muttaqi has had to India, and the kind of statements that we had seen coming from bilaterally from both of them. Do you think they are going to feel any sort of heat because of that pressure when it comes because of the non-compliance from Qatar and Turkey, given the fact they are now joining hands, cozying up with India so openly?
My point is that even India opens up, then of course India does not have a direct geographical border. Pakistan has geographical border, and the Taliban, they need Pakistan at every cost. If they want to survive, their regime wants to survive. It's a landlocked country, and it also needs the diplomatic support of Pakistan, because you can see the Central Asia again cannot have an access to the, and later on, if India wants to have access to the Taliban Afghanistan, then they have to go through Chabahar. And once again, Pakistan and Iran, of course, Pakistan will also compel Iran that it should not happen, because I think so in that case, Taliban will be having more isolation than this time, because I think so in international community, if United States, you can see, has become a counterterrorism partner with Pakistan, it should not be seen isolation. Pakistan is countering terrorism and United States has become the partner. Number two, you can see even Saudi Arabia has reached a mutual security agreement with Pakistan. Pakistan's diplomatic stature is very high now. Taliban cannot afford to continue this kind of attitude towards Pakistan. I think so they need to reconsider. And this time, even with the assurance of Qatar and Turkey, I'm very, very sanguine and positive, optimistic that something positive is coming out, which is, I think, better for Pakistan as well as for the Taliban.
What I understand from your take is that it wasn't wise at all on the part of the Afghan Taliban, the kind of cozying up they just recently had with India and the kind of statements they came up with. Am I correct in understanding that?
You mean the India? Of course, India is trying to open it. India wants to use Afghanistan against Pakistan. The 5 days tour of Amir Khan Muttaqi, what was discussed. So I think so this time, India, of course, is going to pursue it. But once again, given America and India's relations, given China's, foreign minister's visit, Wang Yi to New Delhi, Pakistan and Afghanistan, Brigadier Saab was very rightly talking at him. East Turkestan Islamic movement is another threat. Even China won't wish, America won't wish this. If India is going to pursue this, India is going to face more pressure from even America.
Right. Brigadier Shah, what's your take? Let me also bring in, there are certain sections of Indian media which are actually terming this particular recent cozying up of the Afghan Taliban with India, especially during that particular 5-day visit of Amir Khan Muttaqi over there and the kind of statements, as a strategic masterstroke. Is it a strategic masterstroke on the part of Indians? And how do you analyze the move made by the Afghan Taliban?
You see, the Afghan Taliban had always been very cozy to Indians. Not only Afghan Taliban, all the previous governments, you pick them up, you pick Sardar Dawood and you pick Ashraf Ghani, you pick Karzai, they had been very close to the Indians because India and Afghanistan, they only harp on one point. As Indians keep on saying that India was divided and Pakistan was created, though it was subcontinent, everybody knows it was not India which was divided, it was subcontinent was divided. Similarly, the leadership in Afghanistan at different point of time had said that the East India Company had created an unnatural border by marking the Durand Line. Now, Durand Line is an international border. It is everywhere it is quoted as a border. Afghans fought 3 wars with East India Company. They were victorious. They gained some success in first war. Under 2 wars, they were beaten up like anything. And after that, the border came up and it was accepted by everybody. It was accepted by Abdul Rahman. It was going to be accepted by Sardar Dawood also. Now, these 2 things are common in their thinking. And they carry this thing while talking to India. Now, it's not whatever the things which have come up now and which have surfaced now, and especially one thing which is surfaced in point of the dam on the Kannar River, Pakistan has already declared that Indus Water Treaty, Pakistan and India are the signatory and World Bank is the guarantor of that treaty. And if India does something, it is against the Geneva Protocol, it is against the UN.
I get your point, Brigadier Shah. I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. Unfortunately, we are short of time. I want your quicker answer regarding as to the statement by Mr. Khaja Asif expressing his optimism that he believes that Afghanistan wants peace, but at the same time saying that failure to reach an agreement during the talks in Istanbul would mean open war. How do you analyze this particular statement, the end of it?
I fully support that the statement, and I've been saying that over a period of time, after especially when they build up their forces along with the Fitna al-Kharij on the international border, that is the Durand Line from Upper Kuram to Spin Boldak. I said it was unrequired. It's an act of aggression. They have an offensive posture, and now if the talks which are going on, they have to stop. They have to ensure that terrorism in Pakistan emanating from their side is completely free. Otherwise, Pakistan should be...
Verifiable and measurable action is taken against all those terrorist outfits. And we also expect that sanity prevails there among the ranks of the Afghan Taliban. Brigadier retired GHAZANFAR Ali Shah, defense analyst, thank you very much for taking time out for Unfold tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. RIZWAN, foreign policy expert. Dr. Naseer, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on Unfold tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of second segment. There is something really to cheer about as far as Pakistan's national flag carrier, Pakistan International Airlines, is concerned. It has resumed its flight operations to the UK after a gap of 5 years. Now, the first flight from Islamabad to Manchester departed on Saturday with 284 passengers on board, with the Defence Minister Khaja Mohammad Asif saying that the government's he has reaffirmed, in fact, the government's commitment of making Pakistan International Airlines a profitable and competitive organization. We have also seen Pakistan's High Commissioner to UK, Mr. Mohammed Faisal, saying that Islamabad-Manchester flight could open doors for operations to other British cities as well. Let's hope this particular flight operation directly to the UK is going to bring huge economic dividends for Pakistan and Pakistan's national flag carrier, Pakistan International Airlines. With that note, we come to the end of today's Unfold. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.